All right, we are back for episode 131 of Digital Divination.
I am Ron Lundeen. I am an employee of Wizards of the Coast, and the opinions I express here are mine and not theirs.
I'm Jason Keeley, and I have a dog update if anybody is interested in
I
hearing
want to hear your
that.
dog
Oh,
update.
yes.
So we're fostering a dog named Wally. He only had one eye. He is a pit bull, basically. Real sweetheart, about like 7 years old or something like that. And he got adopted on Wednesday, which was
Hmm.
last Wednesday from when we're recording this. It was
Wow.
bittersweet and lovely.
Okay.
A
Yeah.
lovely family took him home. His name is Frankie now, and he's loving
Okay.
it. The very next day, I got a phone call from the shelter saying that the first dog that we had fostered, Coco, had gotten returned.
I
So
mean, that's a shame,
it's a shame, but
right?
the timing is so wild that we rushed at the end of the day. We rushed over to the shelter. We got her back. She's here with us now. It was kind of like a video you would see. She didn't recognize us right away, and then she gave Paula a sniff, and she went nuts. She gave me a sniff. She was going nuts and crazy and happy, tail wagging and going wiggling all over the place.
Oh, that's
We brought her
so
home.
cool.
She's chilling out again. She's getting used to the place, reused to the smells and the walks and all our schedule and stuff like that. So hopefully someone will come and maybe adopt her at some point. But we're also like feeling a little bit like, well, she came back to us. Maybe we'll keep my, then
Maybe
we
it
can't
was
help
meant
other
to
dogs.
be.
Maybe it's meant to be, but also we can't help other dogs if we do that. So we're at a crossroads here, but we're gonna give it at least a couple more weeks before we make a big decision.
Wow.
Well, how lucky for Coco to have somebody who is immediately,
I
who
know.
really, a great fit to immediately come back to live
It
with.
was
So,
just like she didn't have to spend any extra time in the shelter, just like sort of that afternoon, and
Right. Right.
it was good. It was good for her because she does not like the shelter.
Wow.
I mean, who
Well,
would?
I have an update. I have a new
Ooh,
background.
yeah, you're back. You're back,
I'm
and you're
are,
well, not you're
back in
back,
my
but
office.
like you got your bookshelves back behind
Got
you
my
again.
bookshelves back, and I got Mando back. He's back together and
Yeah.
keeping an eye out. He's right in front of a window. And my wife said, let's put him in front of the window so all the neighbors get freaked out when they see it, when I open
they think there's a
the
guy standing in your house.
Yeah, just sitting there. So, all right. Well, this
Was that your?
oh,
That's not your office you were in before. For longtime viewers who are comparing our backgrounds, I guess
it is. I flipped it around.
it's on the other. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I used to face that wall, and I flipped it
Hmm.
around so I have more space, and I'm up against the wall closest to the family room. We were gaming before, and so I have more room, so I can actually put Mando, and you can actually see him. So
Okay.
I've
We're gonna
strategically
need
placed all this.
we're gonna need detailed architectural plans of your house in the show notes so that everyone can kind of tell
Okay, I'll
what
do
how you
that.
switch
Yeah,
things around.
I
Yeah.
have a line drawing. Um,
Good.
but we're going to be busy this weekend.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Scattering to the winds,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
or
Well, Jason's not
or
going to
receiving
scatter.
people who are
We're
scattered
gonna,
from the
yeah, he's
winds.
going to receive a scattered. Yeah, convention season starts.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. Pretty much it's
So,
happening. It's wild. It's
uh,
March. It's only March. Why is it starting so soon?
because you have March, April, May, June, July, August, you got to all those months. You got
That's
to have all those
most of the
conventions.
year.
Yes.
It is not most of the
That's
year.
so much of the year.
It is a lot of the year. Yes.
Yeah.
I myself found out that I'm quite suddenly going to GaryCon, which will be a lot of fun. I lived in Chicago for many, many years, and I attended several of the conventions that are out there. Um, they're all over, Gamehole Con and some of the other ones I mean, obviously when Gen Con was in Milwaukee, I was up there.
Mm.
Um, but I'd never actually made it to GaryCon, and so at
Oh,
the last minute, I'm being sent to cover for somebody else to run some events, which I'm not quite prepped for, but I don't leave till the day after tomorrow,
Oh,
so I've got a little bit of time.
oh, that's
well,
so
how much do
soon.
you have to how much do you have to prep? Like just one 4-hour session or like a couple of them or
It's actually kind of cool the way this was set up because I'm stepping in for somebody else. I'm not making the decisions about what's being run, how it was described in the
Sure, yeah,
as
yeah,
an
yeah. Okay.
event. What
Yeah.
I'm doing is filling that in, and it's one location, but it's one of three separate enemies, and whoever the main boss is kind of sets the tenor for the rest of the kind of the dungeon and the monsters that are in it. They're all the
Mhm.
same monsters. It's the same dungeon, but is it like a tricksy, sneaky one, or is it like they're out to just murder you kind of thing? Um, depends on it. So I'm going to run the same thing 3 times with 3 different enemies. So
Okay.
each time it'll be a little bit different. 3 different hags. Um,
Are you gonna roll a die to decide, or are they set as a set order?
to be honest, I don't know. I thought about that, and I think that it's sort of good, sort of game mastering etiquette. Ask your table ahead of time, hey, what kind of game do you want to do? The same thing you do with kind of a lot of convention games. You'll do something that's sort of like a quick session zero almost.
Hmm.
You'll be like, hey, are there any themes that you'd like to make sure we avoid? And
Yeah.
here are some, introduce safety tools or whatever. But one of the things like that is, what kind of adventure do you want? Now, people who are sitting down at a convention table tend to be a little more forgiving than somebody who's settling into a 12 or 18-month campaign, but they still, to the extent you got, well, this can go a couple of different ways. I remember one of the best DMs that I had that I ran into at a convention said, "Hey, I'm great at this game. I know some of you might be great at this game, but just the general attitude that I'm going to run this adventure. Would you like it to be, you know, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Captain America, or Hulk Smash? Because I can do any of those that you prefer."
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but the issue with asking like that is because if a lot of people have come and they're strangers to each other,
Yeah.
they might have different ideas, right? What happens if somebody is like, "Oh, Hulk Smash, I know this game great," and somebody else is like, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, please. This is my second time playing this game ever." Um, so how do you get people on the same page? Might be something that's a little harder to do in the confines of a 4-hour con slot than it would be in a session zero where you can have a little more robust conversation
Yeah.
among some of the people. But anyway, that was an exceptionally long-winded answer to your question, Jason.
I mean, if you're gonna ask the people too, like, are you gonna end up running the same one twice just because
I
people
mean, I
say it? Like,
might.
does it matter? Like, you're not set with a mandate. Is you have to run each one once, right?
I'm
You
not stuck
have.
with that mandate.
Okay, cool.
I did have. I don't think I'm stuck with it. I mean, I'll find out if I have. I can
Sure,
just
sure.
ask tomorrow. I did have one of my, as far as running the same thing over and over, I did have an adventure that I wrote premiered at Gen Con many years ago, and I offered to run it, I think 7 times, maybe 9 times, but a lot.
Yeah.
I just ran the same thing over and over. And I remember by like the 6th or 7th time I was running it, I didn't even have to take the adventure out of my bag
Yeah,
in
yeah,
order to like remember what the maps look like, and what the room descriptions were, and what the monsters' abilities were. I ended up having to pull it out because I wasn't clear whether what the DC of this particular trap was, and it mattered based on the person's role, whether it was like 16 or 17 or something like that. So
yeah.
I actually had to pull the adventure out of my bag to look, but I almost got all the way through after running it over and over and over
I'm
without even
having
looking at it at all.
I'm having a bit of deja vu because I feel like we've talked about con adventures before, about the difference between, like, oh, if you have a game and you want, every year have to prepare something different is exhausting. But if you have the same adventure and you can just
Mm.
run it
Yeah. Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
top of your head, I think we've talked about this, and
I
you
think
run it
last
over and over
con
Well, I
again.
think we
season
have.
we did. Yeah.
Yeah, we
I think
probably
I might
did.
have told this. I might have told the same story before,
Uh,
which means
yeah.
all of our regulars are going to be like, "Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what, get some new material." But
Boo.
Yeah.
I will at GaryCon. I'll
There
get
you
some new
go.
material
Yeah,
just
you're
this weekend.
getting some hags. Yeah.
Well, Ron is going to GaryCon, but he was going to Game Store with myself and
All right.
our friend Mark, but he has to bag out on that. So Mark and I are going down to Portland on
Mhm.
Friday, and we're
Mhm.
hoping to make a stop either Friday around midday to see our friend
Okay.
Jason, or maybe Sunday on the way back in the afternoon.
All right. We'll talk about it.
Okay. You don't
Either
have to
way is
commit
fine with
now.
me.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Either one should be fine with me.
Yeah.
We can get some lunch or something.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be great. So I'm going down
I have to
there,
think about where.
play a bunch of games. I'm going to run a couple of scenarios, two bounties that I happen to have written for Starfinder. I always, when
Mm.
I go someplace, I like to run something I've done. And the bounty's an easy one because new players come in, they get a chance to get a feel for the game. And I've run it like a million times. So um, it's pretty good. And it's relatively short. It's a hour and a half to run it. And then I'm going to play a bunch of Pathfinder too, I think.
Nice. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Oh,
have a
sweet.
kineticist I'm trying to level up. So
Oh, okay. What we're talking about? Single gate, double gate? What element?
Single gate fire. I mean, pretty, pretty much
Okay.
standard.
You don't
Blow
you
them
don't have
up.
to say that like you're embarrassed
That's
by it.
something you
It's a
want to blast people
perfectly
with
valid
fire.
way to be playing a kineticist.
I
Exactly.
know. But when we were doing Outlaws of Alkenstar, I did a the dual gate, wood in fire, and I thought that was really cool.
Hmm.
But the wood part was basically he was Gambit. He was throwing playing cards, and that was
Yeah.
his thing. So I really like that. But yeah, I'm hoping to level. The last game I played with him was Luis Loza actually ran it at a local convention that we had here.
Mhm.
So
Cool, 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 cool. I'm not going anywhere.
this
Maybe until
weekend,
till this weekend. I'm saying I'm not going to go to any cons until like the big one, probably. But before that, PaizoCon. At least,
yes,
I mean, I'm sure there's stuff in
Yeah.
between. I'm sure. I don't know what's in between. But the big one for me is going to be PaizoCon. You're going to hear some good announcements and some exciting, fun stuff to
yes,
come.
yes,
And maybe you'll see me be on a panel or two.
yeah, yeah, or
Hmm.
hear you. Do they
Hear
do
me, yes.
do
I
they
will.
do
I will do
video for
video. I
those?
think.
Okay,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't remember
I'm
those.
pretty sure I'll do video, and I'll probably have the usual, AMA
Yeah.
thread on the Discord.
Um.
And that's I think between now and PaizoCon is NorwestCon, which I'm going to. I
Yes,
enjoyed that
Ooh,
quite a bit
I'm going
last
there as
year.
well. Yeah.
Oh
where is
yeah,
that?
it's at the same place as the old PaizoCon. I think the DoubleTree.
Oh, the Dubstream.
Have they
So I
taken
know
it
that I get a
over?
cookie when I come in. Um, that's more of a like a authors convention, like a science fiction writing convention,
Right.
Right, right, right,
science
right,
fiction
right.
and fantasy writing convention.
Yeah, yeah.
But they had a very sort of robust gaming kind of track where they had a lot of gaming panels and stuff. It sort of waned a few years ago, I understand, and now it's kind of resurging. And so um, I'm back again as a guest, and I think that'll be a lot of
Ooh.
fun. I'm on quite a lot of panels, including a lot of the sort of I don't want to say I don't want to say standard panels because they're exciting kind of wherever you go, but they're the things like how do you get started in the game industry,
Right.
or what is the actual day in the life of a worker in the industry like? Right? There are a lot of people who are very curious about what it is that we do on a day-to-day basis. I was boring somebody just the other day by mentioning that I just had a whole day of reviewing spreadsheets. Right,
Oh,
that
the
was
old spreadsheets.
Good
Yeah.
old good old playtest results, right? That's,
Yeah.
spreadsheet them all out and start crunching the data.
Lovely.
Nice.
That could
Nice.
be any industry you're in could have, spreadsheet data crunching.
Sure.
Yeah. NorwestCon's a good regional convention. I think it's not just a Washington thing in Washington State, but it's actually when I've gone, I've met people who've come from kind of all over the western side of the states. Actually, some
Hmm.
people from
Yeah.
even further out too, depending on who the guest of honor is. So,
Oh, at NorwestCon, you
yeah.
mean? Yeah, I think that's normally the case. There is a global convention called WorldCon that travels,
Yes.
and WorldCon is in Seattle this year. And even
Yes.
even at last year's NorwestCon, I talked to people who were saying, "Oh, I'm going to skip NorwestCon next year
Right.
because I'm going to go to WorldCon instead." They only get that opportunity so many times.
And
I
that's
can
a
appreciate
big
that.
science fiction convention.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So, and it's actually displaced Dragonflight, which is a local con that was at
Hmm.
the same weekend. That has moved because Worldcon is going to suck up
Oh, because
everybody's
Displace it.
WorldCon's going to
will
be
to
so
go to
big.
conventions. So,
Yeah, I don't have anything other than sort of my own anecdotal impressions for this, but I think that when it comes to these writing conventions, science fiction ones tend to be bigger than fantasy ones.
hmm,
And I
Hmm.
think maybe there's sort of more of a Starfinder kind of inroad into a science fiction convention that is sort of
right.
very natural there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's always weird to talk about the difference between Starfinder and Pathfinder. Fantasy kind of has a channel that it kind of follows, whereas as science fiction can be can be close to modern day, but far future, post apocalyptic, time travel, space like Star Trek, space like Star Wars. et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, there's just a broader genre, I would say, in general. But speaking of Starfinder, I'm looking at the NorwestCon page. The spotlight publisher for NorwestCon is Paizo.
Who is the
Yes.
spotlight
Yes.
publisher for NorwestCon,
It's
Jason?
Paizo, and Jenny and Mike Kimmel are going to be there.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So if you're into Starfinder and in this area, you should go talk to them.
Yeah, there are a
check it out.
lot of good people that on the Starfinder team. They're doing stuff there. I think it's going to be
Oh yeah.
a great place to sort of go ask questions. I found that the NorwestCon panels tend to be like intimate enough that if you had questions, you'd be able to ask them,
Hmm.
or if you wanted to stop in and say hi to somebody afterward, it's easy enough to be able to do. It's bigger than PaizoCon when PaizoCons are in sort of a physical location, but still very. It has that same kind of approachable
Right.
feel, which I really
Right.
like, because there's some people, some other panelists that I was really excited to meet and talk to, and so I had to like hurry up and like run around the table and become a fan, right, in order to try to meet these people, and but I was able to do so. So
Very
Awesome.
cool. Have either of you gone to Origins? That's a June one. I usually the big convention.
it has.
No.
I mean, maybe 2 decades ago, I went to Origins. I think that
Hmm.
it's been just because it was one of the Midwest cons that
Right.
was in the area, but I don't think I haven't been in Origins in a really long time.
Yeah, it's June 18th through the 22nd. For me, I like Origins. I haven't been for like 5 years since prior to the pandemic, but for me, it's like halfway between like NorwestCon and Gen Con, right? It's got
Hmm.
a lot of the big
Okay.
vendors that go to Gen Con go there, but it doesn't have the sheer, the massive scope of panels
Con.
and,
Yeah.
space it takes up for vendors and gaming tables and stuff. But Paizo in the past has had a pretty good presence there. Not quite as big as what they have in the Sagamore Gen Con, but pretty good size and maybe even similar to what they had at PaizoCon in the past in terms of tables and stuff.
Okay.
So that's
Cool.
kind of a fun in
Cool.
between
Cool.
one
Well,
if you don't want to go to the
I've
massive
always sort of
Gen Con.
I've always just sort of heard about Origins. Never been.
Yeah. I liked it a lot. It's actually one of my favorite ones. Origins and then SkullCon. Have either of you been to SkullCon?
yeah, I haven't been to SkullCon, but I've heard good things about it. There are two conventions that a lot of people that I know go to and really like that I haven't gotten to, and that's SkullCon and Big Bad Con.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, no.
Big Bad Con is not happening this year, I think, is what I
Yeah.
heard.
Bad news.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure
wait, is it
why.
not happening this year? Or not happening ever?
I think that's up in
Is
the
it like
air.
that Shucks convention that we went to, Jason, that is now just defunct?
I don't know. How many of those did they have? Like, I feel like they didn't have very many.
I mean, probably not.
Yeah. I mean, we went in 2019, so I could see why they
Why
stopped
maybe the
having them.
next couple of years they didn't do them? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the non-major conventions have suffered because of the downtime in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then in general, Americans are actually slower now getting back into flying and traveling. I mean, it's just a general trend for the country. So any
Hmm.
any convention that you traveled to, flying or had to go some distance, it's probably struggling a little bit. Even Gen Con is now just getting back up to where it
Yeah.
was pre-pandemic.
And getting back up to the completely sold out that it used to be.
Yes, yes. The
Oh,
line
no.
wrapping all the way around the building outside to get your tickets and stuff.
Yeah,
Badges.
I'm excited to be going to Gen Con kind of as a fan this year.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I think that I mean, like with Gary Con, who knows what's going to happen at the last minute? It may suddenly be, okay, you got to work. But um, I don't think, like last year when I was at Gen Con, there was an upcoming release I was working on that we were doing some testing for. It wasn't a big release at Gen Con that I was there for, but I was there for work. And I don't see from our schedule that there's something that I personally am going to be on where they're going to send me to Gen Con. So when registration opened up and housing opened up, I kind of jumped right on it to be
Hmm.
personally request my vacation for then. And
Very good. Yeah.
Mhm. Jason, you're going to
Yes.
Gen Con.
So I hope so.
You
You
hope
never
so.
know, but I hope so. Yes, I have a big book release to stand next to my comrades in arms with the release of Starfinder Second Edition. It's a big book called Battle
Yes,
Cry!
Battle
Exclamation
Cry,
point.
Yeah.
which I can say
And
I wrote on it because I noticed my name is listed as one of the authors.
yes, oh, the
Okay.
page is up. Yes.
Yes, the page is up.
Yes, I should tell people that they can at least say they wrote on it.
That they can now look at this thing you were excited about.
Well, yeah, I mean, all the authors that I have, have been, the freelance authors. I can tell them at least they can say that if the page is up. It's something I always have trouble keeping track of myself, and
Yeah.
when it's okay to say something, and when you can
Oh
say
yeah.
what you've written and all that stuff. Not yet, but there's stuff in there. It's the big war book. It's got the 2 new classes from last year's, play tests and a bunch of other stuff. A new ancestry, just a kind of a brand new ancestry. This is not a Pathfinder podcast, so I won't talk about it too much. But I'm very excited about these big blue boys.
Yeah, me too,
I
actually.
mean, except you could maybe play them in Starfinder Second
I
Edition because
suppose you
the
could.
game systems are a lot closer, right? You could be
Yeah.
Guardian or whatever if you wanted to.
I mean, yeah, you could bring that stuff into the Starfinder Second Edition, the classes and the ancestry and whatever else that's going to be in the book. Sure, why not? You can't. I can't stop you if you want to do it that way.
No, I'm excited for that book for reasons, but
Yeah.
also for Starfinder Second Edition coming out, and I'm running 7 tables there.
Ooh,
One of them is the Starfinder Specials coming out, and then I'm running 6 tables of the introductory scenario that they have, like for your brand new
oh yeah,
Starfinders going out there and doing. So I will become very well versed at that one scenario. So
yeah. I bet.
um,
But with introductory people, one of the things in that I've seen a couple of times now that I've run something for new people, introducing them to the 3 action economy, is at first people are very excited that they get to do a lot of things. They're like, "Whoa, I get to do 3 different things." I'm like, "Yes, you absolutely do." And then there's a little bit of a dip back down when they realize that moving is one of those 3 things. It
Yeah,
counts
right.
yeah.
as one of the
No
things.
matter how far you go, spend one
Yeah,
action to move.
exactly.
Yeah. Or
They
hey,
get
that's
so into it so
yeah,
fast,
yeah.
right?
It's so easy to sort of pick it up, but and now if you grab it, if you're a spellcaster, grab a spell. Oh, this spell costs you 2 actions.
I know so
Aha,
many
so you
things are
can't do
2
3 things, but
actions.
yeah, that's a reason why you make the 3 action economy, so you can do these fun things that really eat up all your actions, but do a big thing.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
then you can have special things that reduce the cost to 1 action, right?
Sometimes,
Yes,
Or the
that's
kind of effects like spells that's 1, 2, or 3. You pick. You've
yes.
got the freedom to pick.
yes,
I
the
think it's not a
freedom.
mistake that some of the very, first rank spells are some of the ones that are castable at 1, 2, or 3 actions. They want to get people sort of early on used to the fact that you've got a lot of flexibility with this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But there's a lot
Yeah,
of other cool stuff coming out with 2nd edition. I mean, scalable cantrips is coming right in, right? Didn't have that in standard Starfinder.
yeah,
Um, you're gonna have, equipment that basically you can scale, right? By adding fusions. I don't know, but
it,
yeah, I think it's
yeah.
yeah. But
It's not
I
going to be
guess
basic,
the
fusions.
improvements. They're
yeah,
not
It's
infusions.
not.
yeah,
It's
they're
the
whatever they're
the
called.
tactical version versus an
Yeah,
advanced version versus the
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, so they've taken a lot of the cool stuff from Pathfinder in the remastered and put it in a Starfinder Second Edition. So I think that'll
Or
be
even
neat.
some of the stuff that was in Starfinder First Edition. You may remember, John, that I badgered you into allowing me to use scalable cantrips in
Yes.
Horizons of the Vast,
Yeah.
which was still First Edition, because it was the Black Magic had those rules.
Right. 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 No, I'm just glad it's all baked in.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So
indeed.
that's what's
And
cool.
there'll be other surprises,
Other
probably.
cool things. Yes, I'm
Other
sure.
cool things here, yeah, at the show for Starfinder, for Pathfinder.
Well,
It's
this
Gen
is
Con.
this is one of the things that's really fun about conventions, sort of all sizes. If a company has a presence at one of these, then it's often the place where you can be one of the first people to hear about new things that are coming out.
Mhm.
Here's all the new stuff that's coming out for PaizoCon is gonna have announcements, I'm sure. Gen
Oh yeah,
Con is gonna have releases and announcements, I'm sure.
always.
So it's kind of an exciting place to be because you get to hear sort of what the newest thing is. one of the things I've noticed is that Paizo has a tendency to announce things with a little bit less warning, right? Instead of here's a thing that's going to come out in 9 months, it's like here's a thing that's going to come out in 5 months. That I like that as a fan because I don't have to get distracted by others. Like the thing that I'm excited to get, I can keep my excitement up until it comes out, and we're almost immediately sort of hearing more things about it. I feel like that's a lot of fun. So,
There's the logistics of that, and I'm sure you know this, Ron. The logistics of things need to be announced for the purposes of like retail and stuff like that.
mhm.
I would say want to go too far out because people, but also Paizo makes so much stuff that you can't just be. I mean, you want to give everything a little bit time to breathe. But then there's the reality of like we have to tell, I don't know, like Amazon or whatever, what a book is, and that kind of acts as a little bit of an announcement sometimes. So you have to like plan to announce it for real also while it's being sort of like dropped and available for pre-order on another website or something. So it's always tricky. But hopefully we get that timing right so the people we don't we might say something but maybe don't talk about it for a little bit and then really kind of talk it up for when it's going to
No, I think you're right. I think that there's some discussions about playtests coming down the line for the Technomancer and the Mechanic,
Mhm.
happen.
and as that runs the same kind of risk, right? Like, oh man, I'm really excited for those things, but there's so many products just in between
Right.
now and
Yeah.
whatever that's going to come out with, including the game itself, like the core rulebook
Right, the
itself.
core run of the game. And we're having
So
we're just having so many playtests, like almost constantly playtesting now at this point, with between Pathfinder and Starfinder, kind of releasing new classes, kind of just trading back and forth playtest
Mm.
stuff. So it's like Commander and Guardian, and then we had the Starfinder playtest, and then we got the ones that just sort of dropped. Did they just drop? No, I've already forgotten.
the playtest that just dropped.
No, I don't know anymore. Yes,
Okay,
it must have. I don't remember anything anymore. What's what? Hold on. Let me
He
double
doesn't
check
want to
something.
misspeak and say something
I
I
was going to
don't
not
say,
want to
to be
today.
honest, you remember you don't
misspeak.
want to make a mistake,
Yes. Let
Make
me
John
just
have
say
to
it.
edit
I'm
stuff.
checking something right now. Yeah.
well,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
wait,
Yeah. 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 In December, the Impossible playtest with the Necromancer and the Runesmith. Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
right.
That was that, and then we're moving into eventually talking about the mechanic and the technomancer. Then what's after that? Who knows? Will it be more Pathfinder stuff? Will it be more Starfinder? Like we're going to be constantly. We got to like though. Hopefully, there be some breathing room for people to just sort of like, hey, enough.
Yeah.
Playtest you guys. We can. Yeah.
And then will you all get to take a break after Gen Con and all these releases?
Yes, that's a big thing.
Okay.
When we get to have a little bit of time. Although it's like obviously always working on the next thing, but the winter months are always a little quieter.
Yeah, it's like like a some sort of musician who's gone from sort of the concert schedule to going back into the studio to make the next cool things
Right. Yeah.
to play at the next year's
Next
concert schedule.
big concert. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So it
Exactly.
feels very much like that.
Very cool. Very cool. And then at the tail end of all that, end of September is SkullCon for anybody who's
Hmm.
interested. End of September, sometimes early October in Minnesota.
That
So
is
the
a
weather's not too cold
Minnesota.
yet.
Okay. Right.
But is also good. Do you have the dates for does Skullcon announce their dates already?
Oh, I'm sure they are. Let's see.
Is it, and I'll
Uh,
make sure that everybody realizes how little research we actually do ahead of time for this stuff. How off the cuff you get us because you'd think that'd have been a question that would have come up if we'd done much preparation for this podcast here.
oh, I don't know. I'm not seeing it.
Alrighty.
Um,
Well, everybody, we're keeping an eye out for Skullcon this year.
September 26th to
Yeah.
28th.
Oh, there you
Okay.
go.
Yeah. So that last weekend in September, which for me is a little tough because I usually start teaching that week.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
but not a lot happens during the first week of school. So usually it's like, okay, I'll teach Tuesday, Thursday. Usually it's intro stuff and some basic things. and then Thursday after class, hit the airport,
Hmm.
go to SkullCon. So,
Or the first Thursday is going to be a remote class, and you're taking it like from the convention floor. In the background, there's people
yeah,
in
no,
cosplay walking around
oh,
behind you, and
it's
you're
really loud. The very first interviews I ever did for No
Mm.
Direction, very first one
Mhm.
was Thirsty at SkullCon, and even after things had kind of broken up, it was still super loud there. So it's
I believe that.
yeah. It's a good sized convention. So, all right. Well, I think that's a lot of conventioning to look forward to this year, this summer. So
And we'll be able to talk about it for the whole rest of the year
yes,
as we keep getting together for these.
So many conventions.
so many.
We should just have one convention for everything, for pop culture, for video games, for
Wait, whoa,
role playing
whoa!
games. We should just have one and just get it over with.
That
And
would be so massive, though.
yeah, just get a big. I don't know. Just rent out. I don't know, a stadium or two.
You,
Rent out this. I
you
don't know, the
can't.
state of Missouri, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, Rhode
it's like
Island's small.
you know.
something central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Central. There you go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I used
There's
to
not
go
much in.
to Emerald City Comic Con and Penny Art PAX when it was just one
Yeah.
thing in Seattle Convention Center, and
Oh God, yeah.
it was 80,000 people.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
people.
You know.
I had a lot of friends that went to Emerald City Comic Con just this last weekend or weekend before.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm,
recently.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you talk about San Diego Comic Con, it's hundreds of thousands of people spread out. That thing's just miles long, that convention center.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, you can't fit
Yeah,
everybody in one space.
I've never been to that. I do. One of the things I want to get to because I've got a lot of friends back in Salt Lake City is they had what they called the Salt Lake City Comic Con for the longest time, which is
Oh yeah.
enormous. But they got San Diego Comic Con told them they couldn't use the name, and so now they are Fan X. That's the name of that
Oh,
conference
that's funny.
or that big convention in Salt
Wow.
Lake City. And I can pretty reliably irritate my Salt Lake City friends by calling it Fanks because it looks like Fan X, right? Like, are you
Sure. Yeah.
going to Fanks this year? Ron.
Hold on, I've got a solution. You
Okay.
can't have everyone go into one place, right? What we do is we just sort of distribute the convention, just sort of for wherever you are, right? So then everyone has a convention in their own house and can connect with other people virtually in one big. But all the convention, it all happens at one time. But that weekend, you're just sort of talking to people through online things, and you don't have to leave your house. It's cheaper, you don't have to for the food too, you don't have to worry about getting sick.
Yeah.
Get the
Okay.
concrete. I
Well,
think this is the perfect solution.
I think if you did this and you weren't interested in anything of the pop culture except maybe what Paizo had going on, and that was the only thing that you wanted to attend on this virtual weekend you're describing, I think
Yeah.
you just invented PaizoCon.
I mean, sure. Yes. I mean, yeah, but there's not also like, Marvel and Disney talking about their movies at the exact same time
I guess that's true.
or the
That's
week.
true.
Because you take what we do, take a whole week. Everybody in the country has the whole week off.
That's right. It is the fan week.
It's the week of because everyone loves all of these things. We just because we do it every convention. It's a baseball card convention. It's a gun convention. Sure, why not? It's sports
Okay.
conventions. It's just everything. Why not? It's just every convention just rolled into one giant burrito, and we have the
That,
week off.
that nobody can attend because everybody will be working the convention for whatever industry they happen to be in. Ooh, I don't know.
It's
I don't know. Look, I don't want to shoot down your dream, Jason. I think that.
well, I'll figure this out. I'll figure this
All
out.
right, you whiteboard that a little bit. Get back to us.
Yeah.
Well, I have one last bit of
Actual
trivia,
news.
I guess. No, it's
Okay.
not really
Okay.
news. So I went to one of the first San Diego Comic Cons,
Hmm.
50, and it was in the El Cortez Hotel, which was just
Okay.
older, rundown hotel in
Mhm.
San Diego. And it was really just a Comic Con then. There were vendors who brought long boxes of comics,
Comics.
and you went
And
and
you just look through them
bought and
and
traded comics. Yeah, and it's like, wow. I'm thinking, I just read. There's this article at Comic Con is like at like 50-year anniversary, and they're talking about what it was like back in the day, and it's like, wow. I remember taking the bus to Comic Con back in the day at the El Cortez. I'm
You're going to show up in like some
Oh.
historical documentary where they've got like a picture of the
Yeah.
old Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, how it used to be, and somebody will be like, "Who's this in the background?" That's John Godek in the background of this picture,
and I have comics
looking
still
through a long
that
box of comics.
I bought from then. So okay. All right. Well, that's my trivia. Well,
Cool.
another segue into another area, but I think convention season is going to be pretty exciting.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I'm nervous.
Oh, don't be. We'll be safe when we come see you. It'll be okay.
No, not about that. I'm just nervous. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Wait,
I hear
whoa,
you.
whoa, whoa, whoa! No, back up because we're friends here. Wait, what are you nervous about?
I get nervous at cons. Working. If it, you
Mm.
remember working Gen Con? It's
Yeah, I have. It's a
it's a
lot of
lot.
people, and it's a lot
a lot of
going on.
people.
It's a lot to pay attention to. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
I'm one of those weird extroverted introverts. I
Mhm.
like hanging out with people. I'm like did a lot of theater and improv, and I like having an audience. But also, I get nervous about it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Well,
And thinking of people coming up to you over and over and over is a little maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to people, but also like, well, people don't want to talk to me.
oh, they do. They do.
No.
Now
Yeah.
everyone's going to come talking to you after this.
I know. I'm just gonna have to find me. Find me. I'll be somewhere
Now it's a
hidden in the
game.
booth. Yeah.
We'll have every show we do between now and Gen Con, we'll have one clue
Clue.
about
Oh,
how
yeah.
you can piece all the puzzles together and find Jason Keeley at Gen
There
Con.
you go. Or somewhere. Maybe it
Or
isn't
some
even Gen Con.
maybe or somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, I'm John.
And I'm Ron.
And I'm Jason, and then this has been Digital Divination.